Welcome in, Duck fans. It is me, as usual, Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. Brandon is back this week. He's over here. I'm directionally challenged when it comes to the virtual reverse world. Duck fans, it's okay. Drink up.
Oh, mine's already gone.
Oh my. You're going to have a miserable postgame coming up here. Let's not sugarcoat this. One, congratulations to the Huskies for playing a spectacular game in that type of environment.
They played great.
Congratulations. Kalen DeVore did exactly what he's known to do, be an offensive coach. It doesn't make it any easier to deal with, especially that type of game. But it was a fantastic game. So I won't complain too much. What were you thinking, Brandon?
Oh, I saw a.
I saw it.
There it is. That comment there.
Cheers to you, my guy. Facts.
I'm there.
Facts is his thumbnail.
But back down to it. Penix himself, the quarterback for Washington, played a great game. I mean, that dude, it felt like he couldn't miss a pass. There were a couple drop balls here and there, but it felt like the entire game he could not miss a pass. For whatever reason, he was nailing everything. Short, long, doesn't matter. He was throwing passes that felt impossible. Even the announcers were like, dude, I've tried that. You can't do that. That's hard. NFL quarterbacks can't do that. And he was nailing them.
Oh, he was throwing those short outs, but all the way across the field for like 4 or 5 yards to get first downs, like repeatedly, at least 3 or 4 times. I was like, my God, we cannot cover this guy. And he was just nailing him. I'm like, it's killing me.
Yeah, it felt impossible to stop. And at the end of the day, we did get a few decent stops. Obviously, for those who don't know, who didn't watch the game fully, 37-34, Oregon lost. It sucks. It's hard to be a Ducks fan right now. And not the worst thing in the world. But, yeah, it felt like we couldn't stop them. It felt like it was going to be a shootout. Everybody was going to score 50 points in this game. And whoever could score the last touchdown will win. And it kind of came down to that, but not as much as I thought. A lot of crazy things ended up happening in that fourth quarter.
Well, as we said, too, we were talking about before the show, we were like, this is wild. You were texting me during the game going, wow. Wow. And I was like watching the game going, it's not over yet? Holy shit. It was just like, the first half was like defense, even though it felt like no one was getting a stop. Then the third quarter just erupted, and no one could stop anyone.
Yeah.
It was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, first quarter, immediate touchdown from Washington kind of set the tone for the game, and we kind of started slowing them down, doing what the Ducks do, right? Hey, we don't always stop everybody on the first go round, and that kind of I expect that whenever we come into a game. Then we started getting our defense up. We started holding them to a couple of field goals here and there. Felt like it was going to be starting to swing the Ducks' way, and it kind of did. Towards at least at the beginning of the third quarter. But the second quarter, it just felt like everything that we would normally do, or at least everything we did against UCLA, did not work against Washington. I mean, you could pick like 4 or 5 things. The long passes down the middle of the field didn't work in that first quarter. We tried that onside kick, which I'm sure you'll bring up here shortly. Did not work. We tried a new number of things. It just did not work.
And then the third quarter, like you said, we went in halftime down 3. It was 13-10. It was like, okay, that's okay, fine. Third quarter, opened it up. Washington opened it right back up.
Yeah.
2. And it just was neck and neck the whole way. And it was like, my God. For a brief second, I thought, well, okay, we've taken control of this game. And it's like, no.
And that brief second ended when Bo Nix got hurt. He came out of the game. It was rough to see. Go ahead.
We got to dive into that drive because I thought that was going to be even the announcer said that's a season-defining drive that we were doing.
Yeah.
And then Nick's got banged up. That was tough.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. Watching Knicks go down was hard enough. Ty Thompson came in, and I was like, okay. I was on the phone with my brother at that time. I was like, okay, you know what? Give it to a couple of our running backs. Let's keep the drive alive. Maybe Knicks comes back. He didn't seem like he was super injured. It kind of looked like he maybe just twisted his ankle or something not super bad, because he was able to walk off after he got off the field. He was able to walk it off. That happens. You have things like weird little injuries that happen all the time like that. And then the moment, in my opinion, that changed the whole game. I know I seen someone comment the onside kick was a disaster, and I think you agree with that. But the moment that defined it for me was Bo Nix on the sideline, jumping up and down next to Dan. I mean, he's literally jumping up and down next to Dan Lanning, saying, "Put me in." I'm sure that's what he's saying. Put me in, coach, put me in. And they ran the play with Noah Whittington and Ty Thompson. And now that's not a bad option, to be honest with you, because those are two really good players. But Noah Whittington just happens to slip and fall.
Yep. I mean, like you were saying, hey, why didn't we have Irving in there? I'm like, Whittington is just as dependable, especially in like a little short yard, 4th and 1, 4th and 2.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like Ty Thompson did anything wrong. He just slipped. It was like, the worst possible moment for that to happen to a running back. And I mean, I don't mind the aggressive nature because, like I think I was saying, I was like, Dan Lanning said, "Hey, we get this 4th down here, that's game over. We're sealing this game. We're it's going to be done. We're not giving the ball back. We're done."
And Jeff posted a comment there too.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. I would have to go back and look at this play. I don't know if that's completely accurate or if Thompson wasn't comfortable. He didn't look very comfortable when they were showing him on camera. He was kind of like, he just kind of came into this big situation. He didn't look comfortable, but I don't know if he misread. I'd have to go back and watch that play. But Whittington slipping was just unfortunate.
Well, and I think, a lot of it too, think about this. Bo Nix is unquestionably the biggest leader on our team. And you take the biggest leader out and substitute him with someone who isn't necessarily got that leadership quality, doesn't have that next quality. And, you kind of get what you get. You get little mistakes here and there, and that can cause someone to slip. And I can see it, Hey, this guy who's been confidently handing me the ball.
Forsyth also going out was huge. He was injured on the previous drive. He was grabbing his shoulder. He's stuck in there. And then that next drive, he had to go out, and he was still rubbing like his shoulder area. Like you could tell he was hurt. Let's go into let's bring in another drinking buddy here. Maybe you need to get a refill, Brandon, because I think Mikey G is loaded up right now with this debacle tonight.
Hello, welcome.
What's going on, guys?
What do you think of Mikey?
Oh, I think I mean, so we did the Pac-12 recap or whatever on Wednesday, and I went into that feeling pretty confident. I said as much, but the reality is that we hadn't really hit the meat of our schedule yet, and this was going to be it, right? Like we got past UCLA. And I kind of chalked that one up as a kind of like an emotionally charged, hey, let's get this thing done. And then we just roll the rest of the way up into this one. And it had me a little concerned. And, it sucks on a lot of different levels. But, I think that it's not super surprising. So I think what's probably most, I think that I'll be paying the thing that I think I'll be paying attention to, and I know you guys will be too, but like how we respond, we're going into a huge redemption game next week. Can they pull it together? I mean, they clearly have shown the resiliency to do as much after Georgia. So you half expect that to be the case going into this game at home next week. But man, oh man, there's a lot to be concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, one, defensively, we knew we weren't an amazing defense. We knew Penix was going to throw it all over the place. I didn't think he was going to get over 400 yards. He got, I think, 408, Brandon. I think that's what the final
408.
408. And there was like 3 pass plays that changed the entire game for Washington. Like 3 really big plays for Washington. You know, that final touchdown they got, which was like, my God, the one time you need to get a stop, and the guy's running up the sidelines. Like,
so, and the thing that's most perplexing about that, I mean, we already knew that, right? Like, we knew that Penix was going to score. We knew that they had the wide receiver core that was going to be able to get into the end zone. But the thing that didn't really make sense was the coverage. Like, why were there so many times where this soft coverage was at play, whether they were in zone or man? It was always like this. They were always the comeback routes. You know, why, with the skill that we have in those positions, it was Bennett getting burned, it was Manning getting burned. Like, these are studs, and they shouldn't be. You know, so credit to the Huskies, man. Like, I don't have any ties with UW, and so I'm unabashed when it says when it comes to this game. I don't hold back, but you have to credit them. You have to credit the way that they came into this. I do think this is more of an Oregon loss than a UW win, because we just had too many mistakes. We didn't capitalize when we should have. But those two kind of like turnovers in the red zone offset each other. So
yeah.
You know, you can't really say that was a game deciding, you know, turnover. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot to kind of, you know, be concerned with. But my faith is not lost in this staff. If you know, I'm really excited to see how they approach this next game. And you know, obviously the talent is there. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point too, when we were talking, you know, kind of behind the scenes a little bit, was, you know, it hurts. This win hurts. If you're a Duck fan, we were hoping to win this one. This ends a streak for us. 23? This would have been 24 home wins straight since 2018.
Yeah.
So it hurts. But I think the Ducks are going in a great direction, especially from last year. I mean, we were in the college football playoff projections, right? We were in the mix of everything. At the end of the day, we even get to the Pac-12 championship. We win out from here. I don't see that as a loss. I see that as a victory. And I think our coaching staff over the next couple of years will keep that bar rising.
Yeah, I mean, remember, this isn't their, you know, all their players. This is a staff going, hey, this is who we have, which are very talented people. We're going to put them in the best position to be successful as they can be. Tonight was some unfortunate events. Washington took advantage. Washington came out with the W. Credit to Washington. But at the beginning of this year, I think most of us said 8-4 was the floor.
Mm-hmm.
If we're looking at 10-2 with a championship appearance and a potential at a Rose Bowl, that's a huge win for a first-year head coach, especially after starting the way the season went. And I mean, it's not like even Bo Nix had a bad game either. So, like, I don't want anyone to be like, Bo sucked looking at, you know, the loss or something, because I know someone who didn't watch the game is going to try to come and say that. He still was like, what, 20 of like 26 for like 200 some yards, 2 touchdowns or something like that. I mean,
yeah, 19,
I'm showing
19 to 27.
Yep, that's what I show. So yeah, I mean, Bo was not. You can't. It doesn't all fall on Bo. There were other defensive. You know, I think if you were to kind of like, I mean, Lanning already owned up to it. He said this is 100% on me in the preparation for the game, and you appreciate that. But at the same time, like, there's just it kind of, I just can't help but go back to this secondary philosophy and just kind of the coaching. And I know that we've got some good coaches back there. Coach Meat specifically, you know, like everything that we've seen from him, I think has been really good. And so just this soft coverage is what's killing us, man. And we can't keep going down this road of just letting them torch us in the secondary and in the third level.
it is a bend don't break defense, and surprisingly, Washington didn't do what Cal tried to do, or Colorado especially. Colorado tried to throw a lot of slants because the linebackers were up the line. The linebackers didn't play up to the line that much. Washington didn't even do it. A lot of it was just mobility and broken coverage, I think, a lot more. Like the receiver would just kind of streak past the corner all of a sudden on a broken play and get down the sideline and big play. And it was like, or those long out routes that Penix was hitting. And it was like, we can't stop this shit. Like, I mean, we couldn't stop it. It was like, wow. I mean, and credit to Penix. The guy's a good quarterback, no matter what people want to say. When he's healthy, he knows what he's doing. He's good.
Yeah. And, that's kind of my go-to. But, the other thing that is a little bit, concerning is the fact that we've rolled into this game with 40-plus points per game and somehow fell well shy of that this time around. Not well shy. I guess it was, 37 or something, but or 34.
Yeah.
And again, you gotta credit their defense for being able to do that. How much they were able to throw, Bo off. I know that it was the second sack of the season. So, I mean, who are we to complain about that? Like the O-line is doing their job. There were some questionable type decisions from Bo, specifically the game on the line with what was a 1 second left, and he throws it at the feet of Troy Franklin. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with that one. We were talking about that too. And even the final play with the 1 second left, the Hail Marys, he couldn't, he went to like plant that leg that kind of got dinged, I think.
Oh, it's true.
He couldn't put weight on it. And so that's why it kind of just flailed. Because I'm like, don't throw it in the field of play. But I'm like, oh, he couldn't step into it even, I don't think, all the way. That's why Lanning kept him out, I think, because he wasn't quite 100%,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So
it does. It sucks. I mean, trust me, because I was like, man, that same with the ineligible touching for Franklin, because I was like, oh, we got field goal position. Here we go. Let's do this. Go overtime. And there's like illegal touching. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me?
And that's so typical of this type of game, right? Like some bizarre outcome and play or a referee outcome. Like you hate that it comes down to that, and especially in a game of this importance, but that's just the way these games go with UW. Like I'm thinking back to the last time UW went into Austin, what was it, double overtime, and the missed field goals and just all this just bizarre stuff happening on the field. So you kind of expected some of that, but man.
That's what me and Brandon were saying. We're like, this is probably the most Pac-12 thing that could happen. The epitome of the most Pac-12/Oregon thing, probably, especially, that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I know I've already called out Coach Meat and all that stuff. Again, I can't say enough. I know that whenever we lose, it seems like, especially with this new staff, I mean, I'm thinking back to week 1, right? Immediately, people start talking about how they don't think that Dan is the right choice. It's a young staff. We're in for a world of hurt. Just all this nonsense. And if Dan Laney was a bad coach, we wouldn't have had 8 wins prior to today, and we wouldn't have had this execution, the clock management and the play calling. And Dilly is, obviously a very creative and resourceful offensive coordinator. Say what you will about Tosh and kind of like the defensive side of the ball. I still think that I think that they're managing. Now, whether or not that's acceptable or not, I don't. That's not for me to say. But I think overall we have to take a deep breath and just kind of, I think as fans, we're just so quick to throw the staff under the bus and just breathe a little bit. This is a big deal. I get it, but there were some miscues and there were some questionable play calling. But again,
I mean, you take it back a year. Yeah. you take it back a year and look where we were at, and you really look hard at where we were at. And I think we kind of peaked a little bit with Mario Cristobal. I think we did better than we were supposed to do with Mario Cristobal, judging kind of how things have gone this season anyway. I think with the current coaching staff, our ceiling got raised. These guys are good. They're young, but they're good. A lot of them are first time in their, well, I guess one of them, our head coach, Dan Lanning, of course, is first time where he's at. So who knows how far he can take us? Nobody really knows that. Kenny Dillingham, he's a great play caller, and he's shown immense creativity. At times, too much creativity, I think. But that is something that, comes with experience. You'll learn what not to do in these situations as much as you learn what to do. And I think they're willing to try it, and that'll take us pretty far.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and I think, it's not even the offense that I don't think is, an issue. I mean, we haven't even touched upon the fourth quarter where the defense did get that takeaway at the 1 yard line. I went, well, that's great. Oh, we're at the 1 yard line. That sucks. And they went on a over 10 minute, 18 or 19 play drive. And I was like, oh, we're trying to just kill Washington's hopes right now. We are trying to, and then Bo got hurt. And I was like, oh no. Yeah. I mean, that was a suffocating drive. That was like the UCLA drive all over again.
Yeah.
Just trying to just stuff it down their throats and say, nah, we're taking this away from you. And I loved it. But it didn't work to fruition in the sense of a touchdown. But then Nix got hurt at the end. Now, that's not Dillingham's fault. Obviously, the plays that he did and the way they executed the drive was amazing.
Yeah. So 2 points there. And just to kind of, further discuss your point there, I was thrilled, as I think a lot of Duck fans were, about the ground and pound. Hey, we're going to take control of this game. Fortunately, UW goes ahead with that go-ahead touchdown. Or sorry, it was a tying touchdown. So now it's our game to lose, right? We basically take it down the field and manage the clock in a superior way. And that was something that I felt like we should have seen more of earlier in the game in terms of clock management. Now, if you look at time of possession, we were actually at close to 35 minutes versus their 25 minutes. And so I think you can point to that drive, like that was a 10-minute drive. And that's where we said, this is our game to lose. And I just wish that maybe because we're just so effective with the run game, I haven't looked at the comparison between Whittington and Bucky, but in terms of what I was seeing average yards per carry, eyeball test, I thought that Bucky was the better running back. So I was surprised that Noah was getting as many carries as he was, but that's fine. He's still an effective running back. So again, that's not a critique. It was just a point of note, I guess. But with our running game as effective as it is, it was surprising to me that we didn't chop up the UW defense more than we did. Now, to go back to the trickeration, we've got this bunch set, or it was trips right and left with a 3 offensive lineman set, whatever that was. And we've seen it once before. Maybe it was up in Pullman. I don't remember exactly, but we've seen it. And, it's just a look. And I don't really necessarily blame Kenny for that. I don't even really blame, Bo. I mean, Alex, it's not a play call type thing. These things happen in football. You can't, people are really quick to just say, don't get cute, just run the ball down their throat. And I get that. But, there's nothing that we haven't seen anything that has suggested that they can't do something like that and not be effective still. So again, I just kind of fall back to trust the staff a little bit. They haven't shown us anything that has given us reason to question up to this point.
No, and I agree with that. And I was saying it earlier before the live stream started. You could flip a coin, and 50% of the time it's going to land on whatever side it lands on. It was just not landing our way at any point during this game today. The only time when things would land our way is when we forced it to. We had that drive. We would run it, play it safe.
Here's a good comment really quickly, too, and I'm not going to disrupt you, Brandon, because I want you to keep going because we're going to go on defense here. This one, I didn't like this call. This roughing the passer on flow, I wasn't crazy about that. I don't even think Penix fell down.
Yeah.
And I called the roughing the passer, and that really, really hurt us. What do you think, Brandon, with the defense? Because the defense has been the question mark that was going to be the question mark this whole season, especially the secondary. What are you thinking?
Well, I don't disagree that when you look at the hit, he kind of rolled backwards. I don't think it was necessarily a roughing the passer call, but I mean, the quarterback technically did kind of roll with it. So, refs can call that kind of thing. However, our defense is very talented. We have a lot of talent on our defense. They're not quite meshing together like our offense has been, and it's kind of hurt us in a couple of areas. I mean, you got Brandon Dorlus, who can – I mean, that dude was exploding plays. Then the next play, they get a 56-yard touchdown, passing touchdown. Those are very – it's very hard to kind of stop that offense, Washington's offense in that regard. But we should be a little bit more well-rounded is, I guess, what I'm trying to get to my point there. You got Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell's been relatively quiet most this year. I expected a little bit more from him this year. He's been playing well, not saying he's not, but for as highly touted as he was coming into this year and last year, I expected a little bit more. Even from pretty much all of our defense has people along it that are just, hey, this guy's great, this guy's great, this guy's great. And you can point out specific plays where they do well, but then the very next play, they don't necessarily do any good, or maybe even they miss tackles, and it's just a little bit inconsistent.
So what do you think the problem is then, Brandon? I mean, with the defense, I mean, like, and I don't want to say a problem as in like they can't stop a fly, like that type of thing. But like what you're saying, the cohesion, what do you think it is? You think it's just like first year scheme? Is it, the coaching staff? Is it not the right player? What are you thinking the problem is with the defense?
Well, if we compare and contrast it to our offense, you have Bo Nix, who's the leader of the offense, and you have Kenny Dillingham, who's play calling that offense. They mesh really well together. And then beyond that, you have people around Bo Nix who mesh with him. He's that clear leader. He's got the offense. He can make those play calls and make those changes. You don't really have that on defense. You have a good defensive caller for the most part, and you don't really have anybody who has specifically stepped up on defense to say, hey, I'm going to make this adjustment all the time, and we're going to make sure this happens. Or when it gets down, hey, we just let a 30-yard run go. We got to stop this from happening again. There's not really that person to step up as much. We have a couple of different people, but it doesn't feel like we have one person standing up for our defense to kind of take charge and rev the troops, I guess you would say.
What do you think, Mikey? Because I mean, I kind of go, the system hasn't been implemented like fully defensively, and so they are trying to just not get burnt to a degree in certain areas. They want to create that pressure, that we haven't seen a ton of pressure of. I mean, people are getting sacks, they're getting to the quarterback, they're pressuring them, they're making them make mistakes, but we're not. The secondary has been outside of like, especially Gonzalez, and Bridges has played pretty well. I mean, really, he started kind of rough at the beginning of the season. He's come on a little bit better, but it seems like the system hasn't been implemented, like the scheme on the defense.
I think I agree with that mostly. The scheme, anytime you start up a new offense and defensive scheme, it's going to take time, right? And so I've viewed this season through a very kind of measured lens in that we go into week one, we get throttled, and then, we show up to Eastern Washington, or they come into Autzen, we blow them out. We go into, or we have BYU show up, we blow them out. We kind of like eke by with Washington State, and then every game since has been a very high point differential in terms of wins. So we're winning convincingly. Now, it's difficult to assess how much the new scheme plays into the success of this team. Now we've been holding them relatively low points, but you look at the caliber of wins. We've only got the 2 marquee wins against BYU and UCLA. So you have to, kind of ask yourself, okay, what were the keys to victory for the UCLA win? And I think overall, you could point to a measured improvement of the secondary against 1 or 2 standout receivers against UCLA. And while we didn't sack DTR, we were able to kind of force him out of the pocket in a way that was probably rattling him in ways that he hadn't seen earlier in the year. So I think we knew going into this game that if we weren't able to pressure Penix, then it was going to be his game to lose, right? Like you can't put it all on our secondary. And so, yeah, it's very hard to kind of diagnose. I think part of it is what Brandon was saying. Our linebacker core has not shown up in a way that we expected them to, especially when you look to last year. Noah Sewell was our defensive standout outside of Thibodeau. He was all over the place. He was a spy. He was going on blitz packages. He was dropping in coverage, and most times in one-on-one matchups, he was the winner. And so to see him kind of, I mean, granted, he had the tip ball to Jeffrey Bossa tonight, and that's the style of play that we're used to seeing with him. How many tip balls did we see last year? I know of at least 3. I think 1 was against UCLA. I think another one was against Stanford, and I'm trying to remember the third one. But that is kind of like his athleticism always on display. He's always in that mode of ready to make a big play. And so many times you saw tonight where he was stepping up to show pressure, and you thought it was his, like he was gonna make the tackle for loss. But I think a lot of times this Washington backfield knew exactly where Noah was at, and they stepped away from him. Whether it was the B or C gap, they were like, nope, I'm not going that way. Noah's right there. So that kind of speaks to last year having KT on the edge and Noah opposite of him. You're able to. It was really playing into Noah's hands a lot of times. So, yeah, it's really hard to say. I mean, that doesn't take away from the talent of the edge core. I mean, we've still got Brandon Dorless, which pretty sure he stepped out for a minute with an injury.
He did.
Hadn't really paid attention to see how he's doing. Do you guys know?
He came back if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's right. Because I remember seeing him. It was in the 4th quarter, and there was they got to the 2nd level, and Dorless was just kind of like, you could tell his tank was running on E. It looked like he was within tackling range, but he just kind of gave up on the play. So that was a little also concerning to see. But it's hard, man. I know what we're driving at here. I know that we're kind of questioning, it's a new scheme. How much of it is on that versus are the players just not performing at the level that we know that they're able to? And I think it's a little bit of both, man. I don't really know, but
I don't want to point a finger at one or the other, whether the players aren't performing the way the coaching staff wants or the scheme is not working best for the player. Yeah, I think it's a mixture. You could say the same as like sometimes the offense doesn't work. The play call might be great, the offense doesn't execute. Maybe it's just not great for the players, even though it's a great play call. It's just a mixture of things defensively, and we've seen that. I mean, not even since week 1, we've seen it even on the 8-game stretch and up till today. We've seen those things, especially secondary lack breakdowns. The linebackers playing so close to the line that it opens voids a lot in that mid-range, like that 10-yard range for people to throw slants and stuff over top. It's gonna suck. I mean, I want to address this question because in this game we didn't have to deal with it a lot. I know Brandon, you've got some stats you want to pull up because I know we want to look at some other things. We got a lot of other action going on here, but I do want to address this because this is a reasonable statement. I mean, does Oregon have a quality backup quarterback right now? I mean, we have not seen Butterfield in game action outside of like maybe a drive in Eastern Washington. Other than that, it's been Ty Thompson, and usually he's behind the second team O line. Usually, I think. And that's why he gets hit and he throws picks. Because usually he's getting hit when he throws those and they get picked. But like today, they just did 4 direct runs with him. And again, I don't want to say how Mario does with his quarterbacks because Mario, we can see, he doesn't have a good track record with quarterbacks. But 2 staffs have passed on Ty Thompson. Do we really have a good backup quarterback if Nix actually gets hurt? Because when Nix went down, I was like, we're screwed. Like, if it's serious, we're screwed.
Brandon, you go ahead, but I want to comment on this too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was just going to pretty much point out that, I think Bo Nix run for a reason. I think we kind of built up Bo Nix to be Ty Thompson to be a little bit better than he may have been. You could see that in kind of, if you watch the spring games, you could see that pretty clearly. Bo Nix was the clear winner. Not only from experience, just the plays that he was making, the heads up. He was a little bit smart. He can do better reads and live game play. He can make adjustments a little bit better. And that's ultimately kind of why I think he won out and why I think, we have a pretty good backup quarterback. He just doesn't really have any experience. So that kind of very lacks. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we've had this Ty discussion the whole year, right? Like initially I was in the Ty camp in terms of advocating for him to get reps. I wasn't saying that Ty should win the job. I mean, you bring in a guy like Bo, it's obvious that he's the stopgap in terms of experience, and that's fine. But at least in those fourth quarter moments where we're up by 28 points, get the kid in there, let him make mistakes. He's got to see the game at full speed. And so, we've seen some of that throughout the year, and the little glimpses that we've had have not been they've not been very encouraging. Now that's a question of, I mean, the kid has talent. He wouldn't have been rated 5-star by accident. So it becomes a question: is he just struggling with the new offensive scheme? It seems like maybe his reads are not great, and the play calling. Oftentimes, when he's in the game, like tonight, they're just handing the ball off, and he's there as a showpiece. He's not really making a lot of decisions. So, I think that tonight, I was not concerned with Ty coming in, because I think at that point we had 3 minutes left, maybe even 4, where it was a ground and pound strategy. And with our running back core, there's no reason to think that we can't drain the clock, get it down into the red zone, kick a field goal if we need to, which ultimately I think ended up happening on that drive. But, overall, like, for people to sit there and blame, I'm not saying that happened with this game at all, but I've seen it in the past where they're just like really dogging Ty. Like, what is this? His cumulative time, throughout his college career, I'd be surprised if he has a full game under his belt. Even last year, the short time that he had early in the season against maybe like Stony Brook, it was a fourth quarter situation. So yeah, I think we'll know more about Ty next spring. Hopefully Dante Moore is still around and that becomes a real competition. But you're right. It's concerning to have somebody on, at the number 2 spot who doesn't have a lot of minutes.
I would almost like to see Butterfield at this point. I mean, and I have nothing against Ty, but 2 staffs, and every time, like even tonight when he went in, they just handed the ball 3-4 times, and he kind of was not really looking at the field. He was just looking down at the ground. He was put in a situation where he wasn't prepared for it. Now, is that because he hasn't got the snaps in good game action? We can't say, but 2 staffs have gone, we're going to go elsewhere. Sometimes, and I'm not saying that he is, I'm not talking anything bad about Ty Thompson. Guess what? Just because you're a 5-star doesn't mean you ever pan out. Like I was on the whole hype of Bennett getting the starting quarterback job. Well, Mariota came in, and I was like, well, I'm wrong. I'm sorry, Mariota. Good for you, you know. And we never turned back, you know. And the same after that was like, hey, our guys are here, and they just kept moving on. And I'm like, the coaching staff makes decisions for a reason. That's why they get paid big. And yeah, Bo is paid off this year. But if Bo goes down, I don't know. I don't know what we'll do. That's why I was like, I almost had a panic attack. Like as soon as I saw him go down, I was like, uh-oh, because we don't know what Ty can do. So, but yeah, we do have Dante hopefully coming in more. As long Dante Moore coming in next year, as long as Michigan State backs the hell off.
Well, why would they? You know,
I know they're not going to, but I know they're not going to, but they need to.
Yeah.
But, well, you know, it was tough, especially against Washington. My God. Damn Washington.
Yeah, it's you know, they lived up to their role, right? Like that's what makes rivalries great. Like they, you know, if you are in a similar situation where UW is chomping at the bit, ranked 6th in the country, you know, we're going to go up to Seattle and give them everything we got, and that's what they did. So it sucks. You're right. It absolutely sucks. But you kind of look to next week, and you know, we're not out of the conference race. I haven't looked at Utah or even the UCLA scores recently, but
we got those. We got those. Brandon has been on top of that in the background over here. Yeah, we were watching.
What do we got? What do we got, Brandon?
Let's go with this. Let's see what we got going on in the Pac-12. This might be one of the most Pac-12 nights of the season.
Yeah, I kind of hoping for a little bit more chaos since, you know, we obviously went down. My favorite one, of course, is the halftime show right here with Arizona up on UCLA 21-14. That is, you could have said, hey, what are your top 10 predictions for score at halftime? And I would not have come up with this score, not once. And then Utah themselves, they're not doing inherently great with Stanford, which it's Stanford. Notre Dame had a problem with them, but not really many other people have. So very surprised to see that as well. But that's also not great showing for the Pac-12 if we want to keep good teams ranked. So I kind of have mixed feelings on that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. This is what we know about the league that we play in, and so. Is it surprising? No. Is it disheartening? Yes. And so it's just you play the next game and hope for the best. And you know, I think that for guys like me, Pac-12 or the Rose Bowl is not dead for us yet.
No.
And so I've been kind of tooting that horn for a while now, like the CFP stuff. It's been great that we've been in the conversation, but the prospect of going up against Georgia again does not excite me. I just feel like we haven't had answers for their tight end core. We haven't had answers for Stetson Bennett. And I mean, we saw it tonight with a guy like Penix. Like, I had reservations about that. So not that we're better suited to really play in Ohio State or in Michigan, but you know, it's still a Rose Bowl berth. And you ask any other team in this conference if they'd be thrilled to go to the Rose Bowl, the answer is yes. So, you know, I love it. I hope we win out and Pasadena's in our future, but it might not be. So we'll have to see. I think that this was really revealing. I think that it kind of validated what a lot of people like us have been saying about this team, and you know, you just hope that all of the things that we really love about the staff come to fruition in the next 3 weeks.
There was a good comment earlier, and exactly what you just said. Let me see if I can find it really fast, because that's what me and Brandon were saying. We're like, hey, if we can still play for a Pac-12 championship, even just play for it, and potentially go to a Rose Bowl, that's a hell of a year, especially under a first-year coach. And I would
Yes.
say that's a win-win. There was it was way back up here, but there was a great it was real earlier. I'm trying to find it really fast. What do you think, Brandon, while I find it? Because
Yeah, no, I 100%. Like, if we get the chance to play in the Rose Bowl, I would love to play in Ohio State or in Michigan or whoever kind of flunks out of that and goes the opposite of the one who goes to the obviously the playoff. But that would be a much more satisfying win because we go out with a first year coaching staff. We go out with Bo Nix on a possible win or at least a decent game, better than we would if we faced Georgia again. I would absolutely love nothing more than to go to Georgia and beat them, or go to the college football playoff and beat Georgia. But that is just not realistic, I don't think, at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Here's that comment. I think it shows the inexperience, but that's merely a position to learn. And Lanning is inexperienced, but he learns quickly.
Yeah, he does.
It has been shown this year. Like, people talk about that Georgia game, and you go back and look at that Georgia game. The scheme, even offensively, changed a lot after that first game. If you go watch that game to even tonight or like last week, we're not throwing bombs to 5'8" receivers anymore. They're running, it's Troy Franklin now. They're not doing those same things. They went, that didn't work. What do we do? And they changed things. So as a staff, they've learned together and are growing. And I mean, you have to appreciate that. This type of game, it sucks. It was a phenomenal game, and I take nothing away from what the Huskies did. It just sucks because it was the Huskies. But, phenomenal game.
So we touched on the creativity and just kind of optimizing the talent. But the thing that I didn't see a lot of this particular game was the tight end room. I didn't see Ferg getting involved as much as we have in the past. And, even a Mo or even putting Herbert in there. Granted, he's been playing that H-back role in the jumbo set a little bit more, but he had a nice streak across the middle. I think it was the last game in Colorado, right? Like, didn't he get into the end zone? Yeah, he got a touchdown last week. So, it's really easy for us to sit here and kind of like, literally armchair quarterback this thing. But I think that the tight end room, I think, has been a very integral part of our success this year. And I think that not seeing it tonight may have had its role.
That's a fair point because, there was not a lot of tight end action tonight. Now, whether that was defensive, by defensive design of like taking that out of the playbook for us, that is interesting. Yeah, there was not a lot of anything from the tight ends tonight that I can actually recall at all. Maybe like 1 to 2 catches tops. Maybe that's it, if any, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I think that a lot of question marks, and you don't know how much of it is the fact that this is a rivalry game. But, man, we're at home. Autzen is a very difficult place to win. And, with them showing up and walking away with the win in this one, you just got to credit UW, man. I mean, it's not like we didn't show up to play. There was fire in the team. You could see that. I just think it just boiled down to the strategy and execution. They just they got burnt. They got torched. Penix. I wasn't a big Penix believer. I watched them against UCLA, and I saw UCLA clearly was the better team. And the fact that it was a 15-point victory against UCLA, you kind of, you do that head-to-head matchup comparison, and it's hard not to believe that you can handle a team like UW. And so, I think it was probably a combination of they have a more talented wide receiver core. Is it Oduze or whatever that guy is? He got us on a couple of big chunk plays, and Penix was just he was very fluid. And the thing that just absolutely burned me up was how much time he was just back there, able to just deliver. Why is this pass rush such a complicated thing? We have elite talent on the inside and the edge. I don't know, man. I that's the thing that's most perplexing to me about this defense. You could say what you will about the secondary, but if we're not able to pressure the quarterback, you can't necessarily blame the secondary.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you on that one. I will say though, their passing scheme is one of the best in the country, so that's definitely hard to stop. But you watch our guys come around, they could not get pressure on him. Now, if they had more time, they were getting back around and getting some pressure in on plays that, kind of extruded out a little bit longer. Now, Penix was really good about getting it out fast. I mean, you were looking at, there was a couple plays that the announcers were talking about. It was like 2 seconds, start, bam. The ball is 30 yards down the field and caught accurately. It was pretty crazy how quick they were able to start that play and get it out down the field, pretty far down the field.
Or even those far outs. Their receiver wasn't even making the break, and Penix already was throwing it towards the sideline, knowing his receiver would be there. They had a plan. Quick throw, quick throw, quick throw. They had plans for some of those scenarios, and they executed very, very well.
And we just couldn't keep up. Our defense could not get the pressure needed in a quick enough time frame. I think we do have a decent defense when it comes to getting pressure. They just apparently need more time, and that was fully exposed today. You watch a lot of those plays. I bet you we see that.
I do like this from Cody because it is what it is. The Washington game is over. Hate week has to come back next year, and we have to destroy the Dogs next season. But for this season, it is what it is. I mean, we have to move on from this and just deal with all the hate speech from the Washington fans for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the crux of it, right? Like, it's one thing to lose a rivalry game, but to lose it at home, you're now faced with the having to go up to Seattle next year and try and redeem yourself, and that's a tall order. Doesn't matter what year it is. So yeah, it hurts, man, and it might be one of those situations that it was kind of needed. I hate to say that. You never say you need to lose to the likes of the Dogs, but like, maybe that's the fire that was needed to kind of get them across the finish line this year to get them into a Rose Bowl berth. But you hope that you didn't actually need that extra motivation, like.
Unfortunately, this seems to be that kick in the ass Oregon needs once in a while. To we always have the seasons, whether it was Bellotti, Chip Kelly, then you had even Helfrich when he lost to Arizona, and then you had Cristobal losing to Arizona State. It kicked the team in the ass and said, "Hey, we got to do better every week," And it's a first-time head coach, and he preaches, every opponent every week is only Oregon. But that's hard to convey all the time to players, especially when they're getting confident, going, "Hey, we're really good." That's fair, but it's a learning experience for him and then the players. So that this could be that get off the mat now. We've got to finish the season. We have 2 more games in the regular season. Sadly, only 2 more games. Jesus, the season's almost over already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That might have been the wake-up call to finish the season strong. I mean, and again, for a first-year head coach, it's pretty good. I'm not going to have any complaints as long as they finish strong. As long as there's not a complete collapse. If there's a complete collapse, then something went wrong. But that's why we play the games, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I agree with the statement that we do match up a little bit better with Utah. And after Utah beat us down 2 times last year, I'm itching to go and beat Utah bad. I want that more than anything else at this point. And I think that'll we'll go down and that'll bring us right back up. So
Yeah, if there was ever a bounce back game, this is it, right? Like I actually said early in the year, like if I don't remember if I said specifically UW, but if we lose the Civil War and we lose to Georgia and a BYU, but we win with Utah, chalk it up as a success. Because I mean, we're talking a first year staff, first year scheme. You know, the fact that we've made it this far with only 2 losses and only 1 conference loss is pretty incredible. So give credit to them. This wasn't a blowout victory by UW. This was a stumble by Oregon, likely followed up by, I think, some competitive football. And I'm hoping for that win next week, man. I'll be there.
There's a good question here. And this could be taken a lot of ways and interpreted differently. Something seems systematically off with Oregon the past decade, not being able to complete a perfect season of the conference, losing to lesser talented teams. Thoughts? Well, since 2010, no one in the conference has been undefeated in conference play. So I don't know if it's just Oregon. No one's gone undefeated in the conference.
put us in the ACC.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like to make it through any conference undefeated is a very uncommon thing, especially in this conference, because we've had parity for a long time, and we've stepped up our game by hiring some good staff. Namely this year, I think that if you look at last year compared to this year, I think that there's very clear margins and data to show that we are performing at a much higher level than we were last year. Now, not necessarily defensively, and we've already kind of kicked that dead horse for this whole thing, but we're still a better team than we were last year. And I think it's fair to assume that if Mario was at the helm, another thing that we like to say, but I mean, it's true. Like if Mario was still around, we're not pulling off these victories, like the margin of victories with 20 plus points. So I think that I get what Ben is talking about. There is this kind of like, why can't we just do what we know we're capable of? And I'm right there with him. You can't help but think tonight we're just going to throttle UW based on the results that we've seen up to this point. But we also knew that our secondary was suspect, so it's also not surprising to see this. So it kind of comes back to discipline and execution and just performing at the level that we know that they're capable of. And we'll see, man. I think that the trajectory is still on the right path. So.
And our random loss. Okay, I say random because last year, what we lost to Stanford, we were ranked 22. They were not ranked, and we lost to them. At least our random loss this year is to a ranked team, and it was actually a game that we had many chances to win. It wasn't like we were getting beat down. It wasn't like we were just randomly losing to a nobody team that just happened to perform well. It's a good team that performs above expectation.
They're now an 8-win team. Also, we're both 8-2. We're 8-2. They're 8-2. It's not like we lost to a 3-7. Stanford team or something like that. I mean,
Yeah, that's a fair point. They do have 2 conference losses, so that still gives the edge to us. I mean, head to head would only come into play if we had another conference loss, but that still could happen. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I'm still on this optimistic, rose-colored glasses, literally. But it still sucks, man. I can't say that I'm happy to lose, and I'm not happy with the performance. So, but still optimistic.
Addressing Ben here too for the comment, even in 2010, that 7-minute drive we had against UCLA, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was like, wow, I haven't seen an Oregon drive like that since 2010 when we had a 9-minute drive against Cal to beat them like 15-13 because we were like, you are not getting the ball back.
Yeah.
That was the only reason we went undefeated that year in conference play and didn't lose one.
Yeah.
And so tonight's 10-minute drive, I thought, wow, we're upping our game even more. But that 9-minute drive we didn't score points. We just need the ball out finally at the end of that with Chip Kelly, just to get out of Cal, with a win. So, but it's not easy. Even that year, it's not easy. You had that game against Cal where we could have easily lost that thing.
No, absolutely. And I think one thing I definitely want to credit our offense, our entire team for, coaching staff specifically. You look back at like Chip Kelly eras, it felt like we would just do the same play over and over and over again and expect different results. It really did. For a long time, felt like we would just kind of run the same running play, same passing play, and not really expect anything different. From the beginning of this game to the end of this game, we completely changed our scheme and the way we were running that offense to a pretty dramatic. I mean, we were passing almost exclusively in the first half almost. And then second half comes out and we were running it up their throat and they couldn't stop us. They realized that, made those changes and moved forward. That's something that I got to say, I'm actually really happy to see because it's not something we've been really consistent with in the past.
Yeah, we did that against Cal too. When they came out in the Cal game, slow start. It was a little hangover, I think, from the UCLA game, but we came out throwing the ball because Cal actually has a relatively decent run defense. And so I think, the staff said, hey, we'll beat them this way. Didn't work quite that way, but, I see what their thought process was. And then they adjusted when they were like, okay, this isn't working. So, I mean, why wasn't that shot on Bo at the 3-yard line not targeting? That was a clean shot. The tackle from the defender. That was a clean body shot. He didn't even hit his head. A shoulder shot.
Yeah.
It was a clean. Yeah, it was a clean shot. There was nothing dirty about it at all. Nothing dirty about it.
The missed call was really the interception, right? Like, it looked like what was that, Gonzo?
And the Washington receiver, McClellan or something like that. McMillan. Yeah.
That and you got to credit UW too, because they knew, they had looked up at the screen and saw that that Gonzo had possession and essentially the offensive player wrestled the ball away from him after the play was dead. But they got up to the line, they snapped the ball, and that's what you do in that situation. So,
and they made a good call and they executed it well, and we couldn't really fight back at that point. But yeah, definitely wish that would have gone the other way.
Well, full respect to McMillan too, because McMillan fought hard for that too. That's what made it kind of questionable to look at, to go, who had the ball? Because he didn't give up on it either. So, I mean, kind of like go 50-50 to go, hey, great job by Gonzo, great job by McMillan. It was one of those, like, it was a really tough one to watch. It sucked. But, I mean, that didn't determine the game, the outcome of the game, period. So, I mean, that was just one play in the game. I like Joseph's positive attitude here.
Yes.
Revenge. That's what I think that will satisfy our year. That will satisfy our year, I think.
And Alex, I don't know if you got to see him last week, but or not last week, week before last, he was our stats and info guy. He says we're still tied for number 1 in the Pac-12. So we'll see how far that goes.
It's true. It is true. We're still tied for the first. It was definitely the most Pac-12 thing to happen, though. I mean, it definitely was, in the sense of things. I mean, it's just how it goes. I mean, USC's been barely skating by. We've been blowing these teams out, and then we hit Washington. That's what happens with rivalries. You just don't know what's going to happen. What is our scores looking like right now, Brandon? I got to bring you back on here. What are our scores looking like? Oh, Utah is starting to destroy.
Pull away. Yeah.
Zone
unfortunately.
Zona's still. Where are we at here with the Zona game?
Ooh.
Oof.
Oof.
It's getting close. I mean, I would hope that UCLA, we beat them. So at this point, I'm kind of rooting. The better they look, the better we look, right? So kind of rooting for them here. This is not a great Arizona team. So to see them still on top, in the third quarter? I know it just started the half, but that's pretty hard to see. I don't know how much
a block field goal. I just saw an update. They just blocked the field goal.
Wow.
That's bad.
Oh no.
I think UCLA is having an Oregon day.
And there's probably more Zona fans in the Rose Bowl than there are UCLA fans.
You're probably right.
Season, Arizona is going to be much improved. How good or improved or dangerous they will be, you don't know. Well, I mean, if they knock one top team off, they've kind of won their season, in a sense.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about the whole LA team situation. I really, the country cares more about USC, right? Like I think most college football fans would love to see the resurgence of the Trojans, and that'd be a compelling matchup of Oregon versus USC in the title game or the conference championship. But I don't know. Like, I still feel like UCLA is probably the better team given given the questions on that SC defense. I mean, you're talking about a team last week who allowed a Cal team who was beat by Stanford to resurge up to bringing it inside of one touchdown last week. Now, granted, they didn't do that last night, and you hate to see Troy die. Man, that situation was terrible.
Yeah.
Him going out with that leg injury, but
in
any case, I'm conflicted. I'm not sure who I'd like to see in that conference championship, but I think right now my gut's telling me SC, but it's hard to say. It's a toss up for me.
Yeah, I get pretty heated about this particular subject for two reasons. One, they're leaving. Two, that's true.
I
think I'm right there with you. I want to see SC in the Pac-12 championship just because we haven't played them. Right? If we go beat all the top teams in the Pac-12, that's unequivocally, hey, we're the best team in the Pac-12. That's pretty easy to say.
That really came into fruition if we were looking at the CFP more a little bit. Like, that was when we were like, yeah, we got to knock off SC. Then we will have taken out all but Arizona State, which whatever, to a degree. But it's hard to beat a team twice. So, yeah,
it is.
SC's defense is kind of like ours. When it wants to play, it plays. Other than that, it gets torn apart by passing offenses.
But to Brandon's point, though, if UCLA is able to squeak out a win against Zona tonight, that still helps the matchup next week if SC beats UCLA in that game, and then subsequently we meet them in the conference championship, because essentially SC would have beat the team with the better record, or the better LA team that we beat UCLA, and now we're facing. It just helps our cases as a result of a win in the conference championship if SC goes and UCLA beats Zona, and then subsequently SC beats UCLA. So I think a win tonight for UCLA is in our best interest.
Yes,
unfortunately,
conference, but in the sense of overall too, SC still has to play Notre Dame, which will be interesting.
Yeah.
Notre Dame
they're high right now.
For a half, and then just apparently shut up shop. I think they said something like the entire second half against Navy, Notre Dame had 12 yards of offense.
Yeah.
In the entire second half. I was like, are you kidding me? That's I don't even know if that's possible. I mean, you have to be taking knees and just running it once in a while, to only get 12 yards.
Well, you want to see a game with very low yards. Let's
oh my.
The first half of the TCU Texas game. Before we lost this game, I'm sitting here thinking, let's go Texas, because I want TCU to lose so bad. And then at half, it was what, 3-0?
3-0.
And neither team had like 100 yards at all. Like, I think combined, they didn't even have 100 yards of offense, which is ridiculous. But yeah, that's one I wanted to just point out. I do have a question for you guys, though. So I know we're kind of getting probably towards the ending of this. I wanted to ask this since I got a couple people here that are Oregon fans and people listening. So UCLA, USC, they're leaving. And there was rumors that Oregon and Washington might be following behind them in the next couple of years after that. What are our thoughts on that? If we do, if we don't?
Mikey,
Whoever
you
wants
take
to go first.
You take this one quick. But yeah, I want to hear from the chat too, because the chat's what drives this show. You guys making these comments, sitting here talking, asking us questions too, and putting your voices out. That's what drives the show. It's not just us sitting here rambling about our thoughts. It's also taking your thoughts into consideration. That's what makes this all work. But what do you think, Mikey? Within a couple of years, Oregon and Washington following?
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I got some old guy takes on this whole thing, man. I think at this point, it's a necessary evil to follow, an SC and UCLA into the Big Ten if given the opportunity. Just because that's just the way that is the inertia, or that is the momentum of all of the realignment stuff, right? So we have to kind of act in your own self-preservation interests kind of stuff. But do I like it? Absolutely not. And the regional football, like, that's what makes college football special. And I don't have to tell you guys this. We've been talking about this for 6 to 9 months now, about the demise of college football and how these TV networks are just destroying what we love about it. However, if we go to the Big Ten and we're playing the likes of a Penn State and a Ohio State and going to the Big House and all these exciting, compelling matchups, am I going to be excited? Sure, but it doesn't ring true to me the way that playing in Pullman does, or even playing in Berkeley. All of these like very historic and traditional, and just these matchups matter. And so on Mark's channel, I give Tim and Tony a lot of shit for basically the way that they just weaseled their way out and just left the whole conference to crumble. However, if Oregon was given the same opportunity, they probably would have done it, So, it's just a bad situation. I don't like it one bit, but we've already opened up Pandora's box, so there's no putting stuff back in. Even if you bring UCLA back, that doesn't really do much in terms of moving the needle, because you're still going to have all of that momentum chasing the money, and that's the nature of the way it is right now.
Yeah, I don't see them being able to stop UCLA as they've tried to, and say swap with Cal or something. I don't see that. Big Ten's already set their money, their TV budget, their TV whole deal. Big 12 has set theirs. Pac-12 is still, bargaining their deal, and that's also maybe to include San Diego State, and potentially they were talking SMU. But at this point, I don't see anyone moving until after the next TV deals. The Big 12 is for 7 years, I think. Big 10 is for 7 years or something like that. Pac-12s will probably be for 5 to 7 years. And those TV deals all end still before the ACC's ends. That terrible deal they're still in. So the Pac-12 at this point, Pac-10, Pac-11, I almost just see it staying Pac-10 and just rolling with it. And I'm the same with you, Mikey. I would prefer us just stay together, because maybe when the next TV deal comes along, if the Pac-12 has to dissolve almost, at that point, maybe the Big Ten just takes over the Pac-12 and makes pods where it's Washington schools and Oregon schools in a pod, and then all the Cal schools in a pod. because I would rather stay with Oregon State, Wazoo, Washington, Cal, because it's our rivalries. It's the teams we love to see play each other every year. Would it be fun to watch us go play Michigan State, even Indiana every year? Sure, but I don't want to lose little brother. I don't want to lose little brother Beaver over there. I mean, who's going to take care of the Beavers?
Yeah, my thoughts is I don't like it. First and foremost, I understand that's pretty much where everything's going. I mean, look at Texas and Oklahoma; they're gone to the SEC. So I get it. That's where everything's going. And to be honest, if Oregon goes with Washington, I get it as well. I'm not gonna put up too much of a fight. Not like I have a say in it anyway, but I would like to see us play some better teams at times, and I think us beating out some of those other teams would put to shame that the Ducks aren't as good or maybe overrated as people like to say, and yeah, we are. So I think that would be nice. I would hope that we would keep somehow that Oregon State game at the end of the year, that rivalry game or something, or build it in there somehow to where we still get to keep some of it at least. But I think no matter what, I'm pretty sure. I'm on live right now, so you can put my come back to this later, but I'm pretty sure it's going to end up happening. Something like that, something where we go to a different conference for sure, because Pac-12 is not going to be all that great, especially with USC and UCLA gone. Look at how much clout they got. Look how much higher ranked they are this year than previous years, and they're not actually they're better, but they're not like a humongous step difference. Caleb Williams being over at USC does make a big difference. But they were good. They had a good chance before too. They would just flub out. Even if they were to flub out now, you'd still get a better bias because they're going to the Big Ten, because they have a new head coach, all that kind of stuff too. So I think they get more clout just for doing it as well. I think we would benefit from the same thing.
Well, like Brian just says here, it's like I'd rather stay, but the money, and that's it. That's what it's about. It's about money. I mean, that's really the only reason. It was. Plus, I guess UCLA and USC thought they were getting snubbed, but they haven't done anything in so long. That, and that's also Larry Scott. We won't go into the whole former commissioner and his dealings and stuff. But I mean, that's it. It's all about money. Because Oregon's has communicated briefly, I guess, off record, so to say, with the Big Ten to go, hey, are we a fit? And I guess the Big Ten was kind of like, meh, to a degree. So it's like, well, screw you too. I'd rather stay with Washington, Wazoo, and Oregon State. I'd rather the four of us stick together. Cal, sorry, Cal, we could live without you. But
well, and that was one of the most exciting things about the way that we kind of approached this season. Like, we were off to such a great start, and we only got these last two years. I mean, I guess that's what the premise that eventually we will end up bailing for another conference. But like, I think that if you're going to go out with a bang, right? And so I think that was another just kind of added bonus for everything that we had seen up to this point. But we'll still be all right. Oregon is a huge brand. I think that these talks from, like, you listen to the Big 12 fan base or whatever, like, we're gonna go end up in Mountain West, like, that's ridiculous, and so I'm super stoked on the future, not the least of which is because of this staff. And then college football is going to be college football. We may not like the final version of what we get, but that's we're in it for our team, and I'm not gonna go anywhere. I can disagree with the way that the TV networks have done things, but still gonna pull for these Ducks, man. So, fellas, I gotta get off here. I appreciate you having me, and go Ducks.
Have a good one. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Mikey.
Yeah, man.
Have a good night. Try not to drink too much.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
Yeah, we're still dubs down. All right, let's take a final look here at the scores, because we've been on here for a while, but we got a great crowd going on, a lot of comments going on. I like it. A lot of different topics we're covering. Let's see what the updates are going on here. Yeah,
got
it looks
some
like
big ones.
Ooh, still Still third quarter, though. Still is third quarter. 21-20. Okay, so it's tied up now. And yeah, Utah's pulling away. All right, I think UCLA and Utah will pull it out. Okay, Utah should be definitely fine. I think UCLA will probably hold on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yes, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think, obviously Utah is looking pretty far in the lead at this point. UCLA, Arizona, I'm sure UCLA being the actual better team there will probably play 4 quarters of football better than Arizona would. So I have to imagine that they eke out that win. If not, maybe score a couple of extra touchdowns on the end of the night. I think those are all the live games that are left, actually, though. I think everything else is final.
How was Oregon State? I know they were playing earlier. What was the final for Oregon State? I'm sure they won. I think we're in top 25. That's why.
Yeah, I don't think they pop up here because of top 25.
Yeah, they're like number 26 or 27 or something like that. So go up to the top and just tell it not 25, or just Oregon State. Whichever's the easiest way to do it. And I know they were playing earlier and they were up like 14-0, I think, earlier, but on Cal, I think it was. But
they 38-10.
38-10. Okay, I was like, I think I saw them 14-0 at one point. Yep, 14-0 first quarter. That's when I saw the last score. I saw
Yeah.
Beavers quiet 7-3. I mean, a quiet. You know, when I say quiet, they were just 25 a week ago.
Yeah, I fear that game whenever it comes around for sure. That's gonna be a hard one to play. I don't know 100% that we'll win as much as we think we will. I mean, at this point, we are trained to think that we will blow out the Beavers at any given point. And for the last, I don't know, decade at least, it's been pretty much that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's been those games, but yeah, trust me, there's a lot on Mark Rogers' channel. There's a bunch of Beaver fans, and they are constantly Beaver slapping everything they can in our faces to be like, just wait till you come to Corvallis. So,
yeah, well, that's fair.
Good job for the Beavers.
Anything else you want to chat about, or we?
What was that?
Is there anything else you want to chat about, or any other topics, or are we wrapping up here shortly?
You know, it has been a great, almost an hour and a half, despite how, in a way, awful of a night it was. It was a fantastic game. I mean, it literally came down to maybe the final play potentially. So it was a fantastic game, even if it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. But what are your final thoughts? What are you taking away from this game? What are we looking for, next week?
Well, as a West Coast Duck fan, I hope the game is early. Maybe not even early. This is actually a really good time frame for the games for me out here on the West Coast. But I thought we didn't play bad. We didn't play horrible. I feel like we missed out on a few key things, and I feel like we weren't 100% up to par on a pretty good couple of key areas. Had some injuries that really affected us, but I'm not mad at the performance. I'm a little upset. But I'm not mad at the performance. I think we still got a great team, got a great coaching staff, got a great quarterback. Hopefully his ankle isn't broken. And overall, I got to say, I'm happy. I'm not thrilled we lost, but I'm happy to be a Ducks fan right now.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with you. We said there was 2 to 3 plays in that game that would have changed the whole scenario outcome of the game potentially. Potentially, we don't know how that would have worked. You can't say, oh, this one play did this, because the game would have changed after that play calling might have changed. There were some errors made. But as noted by the chat earlier, Lanning learns very quickly, so does the staff. It was an unfortunate sequence of events tonight. It sucks, but, this is just another week in the season. We have 2 more weeks. We have a hefty game against Utah, and then little brother, the Beavers, coming up. I have to say little brother because I have to slide them a little bit. And it's not going to be fun. It's going to be challenging. But if we can get through that, this might be that wake-up call we needed. Regardless, it was a fantastic game. And we have a creeper in here. We have Sam making an appearance randomly. I don't know why. Sam, get out of here. Yeah, that's Sam of Exploring with Bennett. Sam. Just to put that out there. I don't know. You tell me. Is East Coast not West Coast time? You tell me. You explain that.
Well, 7:30 next week.
West Coast time, like sarcastically. So it's like, I'm Central time, so trust me. This is not exactly the greatest time zones either for me. I'm Central time.
Hold on, let me look it up real quick.
Next week, 7:30. Yeah. Is it 7:30 Pacific or 7:30 Central or Eastern? What time next week is that?
Let's see. It says TBD on my on Google.
Oh, okay.
Nope, 10:30 p.m. So that's 7:30 West Coast time, which will be 10:30 my time.
Oh man. Ooh, that's the late slot.
Oh man, that's gonna be a rough one.
Yeah, if anyone was on this show after the Stanford game, waiting for me to do the post game, I fell asleep because I was on East Coast time, and that 1 hour difference is makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah,
how late that gets. And
because those. Oh, go ahead.
Was that? No, go.
I say those games end at like what 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Like late third quarter, I was like in my hotel room. I was out. I was like, oh my god. I was working the next day too, so I was like, yes, ridiculous. Shout out to Cody here though. As an Oregon fan living in Utah, if we beat the Utes, that'll make his whole season.
Hey man, I would love to see it. My guess is the Utes will jump us in ranking. So if we beat them, that means we jump them back? I don't know.
Well, the Utes we're both now that'll equal us. So Washington will be 8-2, we'll be 8-2, and the Utes will be 8-2, right? If the Utes as long as you take on tonight, we'll all be 8-2. I don't think anyone can talk crap about the Pac-12 being weak. It's a strong conference.
And it is.
I mean, there are not like a bunch of just crap teams and like one top heavy team or something like that. Like we're all it is getting a little sloppier now because of this. Yeah. But I don't want to touch on this a whole lot because it has been like an hour and a half, but Brian does make a good question. Is this the type of scenario that makes Bo come back for another year? He has one more year of eligibility. I mean,
I think it really depends, and I think this is going to be a question that will be asked to him probably at the post game, like the interviews that like Matt Prum, I forget their names, but that they'll do with them. But yeah, it depends on it depends on Bo's goals. What was his reasoning for actually being here? If his reason for being here is to play better football, to be with Kenny Dillingham, and to get to a national championship, then I gotta say, he probably will want to come back. But if his goals were just to pad his stats for, go to the NFL, you're probably not gonna see him again.
I'll 100% agree with that. I think it's more of a personal goal situation. If he wants to win a big game, like say we go to Rose Bowl, he wins a Rose Bowl, and his stats don't like deteriorate, why would he stay? I would love him to stay. If he wants to come back and do another year with Dillingham and stuff, by all means, come back. But unless he just like totally drops off statistically, again, it's a personal issue. It's a personal situation. If he likes where he is, he likes Eugene, he likes Oregon football, the college, he has a degree, he's a graduate at that point. He just focuses on football for one more year. By all means, come back. But it depends on what he wants to do. Maybe he doesn't get drafted. Maybe he doesn't get rated high in the draft. Like he gets like a 5th round draft pick. He's like, you know what, screw it. I'll come back for one more year to move up to like a 2nd or 3rd round pick. That's on him. That's a personal decision he has to make. So I can see either way. I mean, honestly, I don't want to make any decision. That's a personal decision he makes and his wife makes because he is married. So that's a full family decision that has to be made. So
yeah,
Brandon, please. We have been on here for an hour and a half, and thank you, Mikey, also for adding a lot of insight. Mikey knows a lot of stuff. He's a very sensible guy. He tries not to go overboard. He might be a little melancholy tonight, though, following the Washington game. That may be why. But
I feel that.
We'll just recap this real quick. I should have misspelled Washington on purpose. Still, yeah, Oregon falls to the Dogs, 37-34.
Sad day.
It is. Brandon, you have any final thoughts? So, promote yourself. I know you say you don't have a lot, but, promote yourself any way possible, because also to follow this up before Brandon takes over, next week and the following week, unfortunately, the Utah and Oregon State game, I will not be here. I'm sure that's good for the viewers. They will get you, Brandon. But maybe we can Mikey come on with you or something like that, But the show will be yours because I will not be around for those 2 weeks. So it'll be all up to you. No pressure. You're like,
that's fair. I appreciate it. I don't have much to, like I said before, I don't have much to promote. I do this because I love the Oregon Ducks, and that is my ultimate passion here. And with that being said, that game starting at 10:30 will mean that I will probably do the post game on Sunday, as I don't know that I'll be able to even make it through the entire Ducks game without falling asleep. Just want to give everybody a warning about that in advance. And I got to figure some things out too. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate you hosting and letting me, speak my thoughts and being on here, and everybody in the comments. I love it. It's a great time, and I love it all.
This makes my life so much easier. Otherwise, it's just me for like an hour by myself. And once again, yeah, same. Brandon will be doing the shows, and yeah, as available, because of course, 10:30 Eastern kickoff. That's as late as a late game. But always appreciate all of the crowd here in the chat section, all your comments. If you haven't, please hit the like button. It helps promote the video, helps promote the channel. Subscribe to the Oregon channel here on the Voice of College Football. Subscribe to Mark's main channel at the Voice of College Football. Brandon might get some sort of social media, so you can start following and harassing him. Maybe he'll do it again. I'm going to put in our ticker. In the comment or in the description of the video is a link to me and Sam's channel here on YouTube. And then right there on the ticker, check us out here on YouTube. And then also, God, I feel like I have to do a lot of this. If you're not part of Mark's Patreon, join his Patreon. Search MarkRogersTV, $5 a month. You get all the Discord, you get the Patreon, his picks, extra perks. You get to talk to Mark a little bit more personally. It's a lot of fun too. We do stuff like this all the time. And then every Sunday night at 10:45 p.m. Eastern, join us on the main channel for Mark Rogers at 10:45 Eastern p.m. every Sunday for the CFB After Dark or College Football After Dark show, where we recap the week, talk about the upsets, and then discuss next week. And remember, there's only 2 more weeks of the regular season left in football. It's crazy how the season comes and you're all excited, and just like that, it's gone. It flies. I hate it. But appreciate everyone here. Brandon, again, and we'll touch base here coming up. Again, everyone in the chat, thank you for coming in. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Well, Brandon will see you next week. I won't, but we'll see you as soon as we can together here to discuss Duck football, whether after the regular season or the championship game or the bowl game. We'll be here. And go Ducks.